Welcome to Health Begins Inside, the podcast where we explore the foundations of lifelong wellness. I'm your host, Megan, and today we are diving into a topic that could save your child's life, quite literally. Joining us is Shannon O'Lear, owner and lead instructor at Little Loggerheads Swim School in West Columbia, South Carolina. Shannon is a certified Pediatric Aquatic Survival instructor, specializing in aquatic safety and survival swimming for infants and young children. With a background in journalism and nonprofit work, she brings a unique perspective to teaching children how to survival float and swim. In this episode, Shannon shares her journey from investigative reporting to becoming a passionate advocate for water safety. We'll discuss the importance of early swim education, the principles behind aquatic safety techniques, and how parents can ensure their children's safety around water. So whether you're a parent, caregiver, or simply interested in aquatic safety, stay tuned for an enlightening conversation that underscores how health truly begins inside. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast, Health Begins Inside. Today, I am actually on location here at Little Loggerheads, and I am with Shannon O'Lear. Thank you so much, Shannon, for being with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Shannon, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us about your business and what you do here at Little Loggerheads, and what inspired you to become an instructor, aquatics instructor?
Well, my journey started over 20 years ago. I run Little Loggerheads Swim School, and I have been here in the Midlands for 12 years, but I've been an instructor for 14 years. I was certified through Infant Aquatic Survival in Atlanta, and then I came to Columbia because at that time there were no survival swim providers in all of South Carolina. So I came here to set up shop and opened my own pool about 4 years ago here in West Columbia. So when my daughter was 6 months old, I saw an ad for survival swimming. At the time, it was through Infant Swimming Resource, ISR, which is what most everybody knows. And I thought, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom. We have a creek in our backyard. I was not a swimmer, but I was proficient at swimming growing up. Came from a long line of swimmers in my family. And so I decided to put my daughter in these swim lessons. And at the time, she was going to be a roll back to float so that if she fell in the water, she would be able to roll back and maintain a float till I got to her. And in watching this whole process, which took for my daughter at the time almost 2 months because she was teething and it interrupted the whole process. But I thought, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my life. And I would actually just kind of hang out poolside with the instructor and ask her questions about the process and the kids she was teaching. And I did that for 2 years. I became friends with the instructor and I just did that. I was obsessed. It took me 10 years to become an instructor. It's a very pricey program. It's very intensive. It's not a weekend certification. It takes 6 weeks of being in the water with at least 100 children.
Wow.
And it's all behavioral theory, a lot of, practical skills. It's just more than sort of your weekend certification that people sort of think of. And I went from there.
That's amazing. What are some of the biggest benefits of swim lessons for young children and just beyond learning to swim?
Well, drowning is the leading cause of death for children under 4.
Yes.
And this is something I think most pediatricians do not educate their clients about.
Very true.
And people think drownings won't happen to them. Drownings happen to good, diligent parents. And it's not because of a lack of supervision. It's because of a lapse in supervision. Mm-hmm. You just want to make sure your children are skilled. And as we all know, children are wily and Very true. Will find their way to the top of a refrigerator. They'll find their way out of the house. They will find their way to water. And you want to make sure that they're prepared. What we find with swim lessons, not only giving your child the ability to self-rescue and the confidence around water, but yes, confidence to other areas of their life. I've had children who are autistic, who beforehand would not get in a swing because they didn't want their feet to leave the ground. And during the process of swim lessons, now we're swinging.
That's amazing.
I've found swim lessons stimulate the cognitive part of your brain that affects speech. So I'll have children that come in that may be speech delayed, and they come in speaking like 5 words. And during the whole process of us being together, that will evolve to 15 words. And people tell me that time and time again. And it's, I found a study that swimming stimulates that part of the brain that affects speech.
Wow.
So we get all sorts of things. So with swim lessons, children can master a totally foreign environment that they don't get anywhere else. Can't go to the moon, but they can master being in water. So that just translates to other places in their lives.
That's a great, theory there. And I really like that. Because I do see more confidence in children who do feel comfortable in the pool, certainly. But what age should we start bringing children in to learn aquatic safety?
As soon as they're mobile. As soon as a child is immobile, they can get into trouble. And
very true.
Right. So I start at 8 months as soon as a child is able to sit up independently. Okay. Because even if you don't have a pool, you may have a dog bowl. And you think a child may fall face first in a dog bowl, a kiddie pool, the toilet. And they just know to push themselves up. They don't. You have to teach them that cognitive theory of where is my air and how do I get to it?
That's smart. I never thought about it that way.
Right. So, and most of my student load, they're probably the 16 months to 2.5 years. Okay. That's primarily my swim load.
Okay. How do you handle a child who has fear of water?
Well, I like to tell people, truly, I've not seen a child who was afraid of water,
right?
But children who have low confidence. And, if any of us have low confidence about something, we certainly don't want to do it, or we have some fear about it. And so if a child gets near water and they don't have confidence about that particular body of water, then certainly they're going to not want to go near it, which is good. Or conversely, they may run straight for it because they don't know that water has consequences when they're swimming. But truly, in my 14 years, I have not met a child who is truly afraid of water.
I have to say the same. Children don't understand fear until they're taught fear. So a parent might yell at them, don't go near the water. And so then they develop a fear of water, not understanding the reasoning or rationale behind it.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that I like to educate my parents as well during the swim lesson process, to try to just zip it. And I say that lovingly.
Yes, absolutely.
But the things that we say to our children affects how they perform. Things like, it's okay, or you're okay, gives them this notion that maybe things aren't okay. Or, I know you're scared. And it's like, well, I wasn't, but maybe there's something to be scared of now. So there's a lot of things I try to educate my parents on. Like, if you just applaud and say, I think you did great swimming through the steps, that goes very far.
Great. Yes, that makes more sense too. So let's kind of, if you don't mind, walk us through what a beginner lesson would look like. Just talk to us about if new parents are coming in and they want to bring this experience into their child's life. What does it look like for them?
So all of our lessons start the same way, and that is with breath control.
Okay.
Everybody has the question of dry drowning or delayed drowning.
Yes, that's a big question for parents.
There's no such thing. You either have a fatal or non-fatal drowning. And drownings happen when the epiglottis fails and allows water into the lungs or some other substance into the lungs. Our epiglottis total function is to keep things out of the lungs. And it only fails if you lose consciousness, which is why we keep lessons short. So it's only 10 minutes. I can always pay attention to children, or they were a very unhealthy child. Maybe you have older adults who may be a heavy smoker. The epiglottis isn't going to function as well as a healthier adult. But our lessons all start with breath control. I teach a child that when the water is rising, they need to hold their breath, because then the water becomes their stimulus for all their behaviors in water, and not me and not a parent. So if they happen to meet water alone, they're able to execute their skills.
Okay. So first they learn to hold their breath.
So we hold breath, and then we work on, for our swimmers, our head orientation, because our head directs everything that we do. And so we want to be able to swim horizontally with our eyes down. We don't teach lessons with their head up because children are top heavy and their heads are heavier than the rest of their body in proportion to the rest of their body, and they can sink. So that's why we want to teach head orientation in swimming and also with floating, because we want that head nice and horizontal with the rest of their body.
Oh, interesting.
So we go through a swim process. And while children are in here, they learn 4 different skills. They learn a swim. They learn a flip over to swim. They learn a float. And the very last skill we put together is a roll back to float.
Okay.
So they're learning 4 different things when they come in here, and we take those things in increments so children are able to get confident about what they're doing before we chain it all together. And after, at the end, they have a beautiful swim, float, swim, and able to save themselves in the water.
Wow. And in theory, how long does this process typically take a child to learn?
For our swimmers, it takes 24 to 32 lessons. So that's 6 to 8 weeks of 10 minutes. And that translates, I think it's to 4 total hours in the water.
Wow.
So we do short lessons, short repetitive lessons, because as we all know, toddlers have very short attention spans.
Sure.
And they get tired easily. And even though my water is warm, it's 88 degrees, they do get fatigued executing these skills. And so that's why we keep it short, and we want them to have that muscle memory. We always end on a good note. If they've, we might not make it to 10 minutes. Sometimes we make it to 8. If they've done a really good performance, I let them out of the pool, because then they remember that. They're like, oh, I did something really great. I got to get out. Let me try that next. Let me try that tomorrow.
That reward behavior.
Yes. So it is very much a reward behavior.
Are we able to incorporate any fun into our lesson plan?
I say fun comes after you're skilled.
Okay.
I do offer a program for my children who are skilled. And it helps parents learn how to work with their children in the water.
Concept.
And we have things like slides, because if they come off a slide, they go right into the water. And instead of you catching them, then they could do their skills. Or we ride around on floats and we flip off the floats, because that happens.
Yeah.
We'll have students playing at the steps, because all the kids love to play at the steps. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe they fall off the steps. And what happens then? They go into their float or they swim back to the steps. So we have very practical, real life things, but that comes only after a child knows how to swim.
That's very reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you're incorporating even safety skills with those few actions that we normally see in a pool, such as a slide or playing on the steps.
Yes.
That's typically where the kids tend to wander to for fun. How about how the parents' attitudes in water and water safety change through this dynamic, teaching their children?
So I try to educate my families throughout the entire swim process. So I like to tell them exactly what I'm doing in the pool with their child and why I'm doing it. Things like first day, teaching breath control. I'm like, okay, I'm not just dunking them under the water, because I hear that a lot. It's like, oh, my child got dunked in a swim program. It's like, I'm listening for them to take a breath before they go under the water, because then the water becomes their stimulus. And so I educate parents about that. So then as we progress, they just know if they jump off the steps to come swim to me, they hold their breath automatically. And I just like to educate parents about why we don't use flotation devices. Okay. Flotation gives children a false sense of security. And for children, everything is black and white, black or white. So they don't know if they've been in a flotation device that they can't swim.
And that's all you see, like out on the beach and in
100%
pools, is flotation devices for children.
Now, I say if you're around a large natural body of water, yes, put your child in a life jacket, not a puddle jumper.
What's the difference in support of the child's body?
So they're both put children in a vertical position. Okay. However, you'll get some arm movements in a life jacket that you don't get in a puddle jumper. Puddle jumpers primarily, and any kind of flotation device like that, keep children in a vertical position, so that we call it the drowning position. So if they don't have a flotation device on, they enter the water vertically, and then they have a bicycling kick, which is very ineffective for swimming. So we work on kicks in the pool as well. And I can always tell when a child has been in flotation because you see that bicycling kick. It's very ineffective. And it's, I always feel bad for a child that gets that. So I like to educate my parents. If you are going to go to the beach or the lake and your child has to have a life jacket on, I always teach my parents, this is how we work with students. Before you go out and do that, I teach the parents how to work with their child. Then put your life jacket on, go do your thing, and then work with them again before you leave. And that undoes any kind of vertical position in the water from a life jacket.
Wow, that's where I actually didn't even think about the body position in the water using a flotation device and how that can actually change the muscle memory that they're learning when they're working with you. And
there have been
that device.
Studies, and actually I've heard lots of people say that they had their child in a puddle jumper or flotation device, and their child went in the water and didn't even try to save themselves. They don't know how.
Sure.
They don't know where their air is. If they do know where their air is, how do they get there? They don't know. They haven't been taught. So there's all these things that I think we as parents, because we just come to that like with our experience, and you just think that a child is going to be able to push themselves up out of a kiddie pool or bathtub if they fall in, and they don't yet have that capability until they've been taught. So we have a lot of brain work going on in our lessons.
Good. And that's great. I have personally known 2 drowning deaths of toddlers. And then I worked in the emergency room for almost a decade. So I definitely experienced that in my career as well, which is devastating. And so having this knowledge to come forward and teach parents and children alike to find that safety around water, and that it's important to start at such a young age because it's something that they can take with them through their whole life. Yes. I, as an adult, I can swim, yes, but I'm not great at it. But if I needed to, I can roll over onto my back if I get tired. But I didn't have that as a child. There was no aquatic safety. That's something that I feel like kind of maybe is more new.
I think it developed in probably the last 40 years is my understanding.
That would be about right.
Yeah. I like I said, I came from a family of swimmers, and when this became my career, my family was like, I don't know how you're gonna make a living at this, because like we never knew anything about this while we were all teaching swimming. So I think it kind of developed in probably this 40 years.
Absolutely. Do you have any favorite success stories that you'd like to share with us?
I do. And I had a student come to me. His name was Grafton, and I think he was 4, maybe almost 5 at the time, which really I cut my lessons off at 4. Okay. Because one, my pool size, and then older children are very hesitant to this way of learning. They catch on really fast, but if they've been in another swim program, then they're very hesitant. So Grafton came. I was teaching his younger brother. Grafton had been in other swim programs, just wasn't there, just was not confident. And I think in 2 weeks, I had him swimming across the pool.
Wow.
And this kid is breaking records in South Carolina with swimming. It is all he wants to do.
That's amazing.
And it really is amazing.
That's like unlocking a secret talent.
Yes. And, I got invited to one of his swim meets last year, and it just warmed my heart just to see, because I remember how he was his first day when he came in, and he was so hesitant. And now he's just wiping the floor in this swim competitions. We're going to see this kid in higher levels. So it's probably one of my very favorite success stories. I have lots of stories of parents, and it's usually a late night text of a parent who says, we were putting up the boat for the day, and somebody said, hey, your kid is floating. And they just turned around, and their child is now floating in the lake successfully floating. And it would have been totally different had that child not had lessons. I just had a text yesterday morning that a child, she's 22 months, just fell head first in her grandparents' pool. And her mom's like, I just wanted to kind of see what she did. And she came up floating. All of these stories would have totally different endings had these children not been in an aquatic survival program.
I actually witnessed one of your clients. It was last year in a pool. I was on the deck just watching the children play in the pool, normal day, but then it seemed that the child was in distress. The ER nurse in me was about to jump over the deck railing and just dive headfirst and grab this child. But before I could even move, instinctually, he flipped over into his back and got the air he needed and calmed himself, and then went right back to playing as if nothing had happened. And I was like, you literally almost drowned and you're okay. I'm not. I need to sit down for a moment, and it was impressive, which is how I actually found out about you, by the way. Okay. And I thought, I need to go speak to her. I need to know how she's bringing this knowledge into our community.
Yeah.
So
it is impressive watching these children do this. And, I have I think she's 16 months, 17 months, and she's doing this. And it's always like the smaller they are and watching them do that, it's even more of a wow factor. But every time I have children get it, and it happens 40 times in a session, I'm just like, wow. That's great. It's so impressive watching them do it. I say I haven't worked a day in my life since starting this.
That's even better, to enjoy and be passionate about it. When parents are looking for a swim instruction class, if they're not local here to Columbia, what do they look for?
I always suggest looking up aquatic survival and vet your instructors. Even if they are aquatic survival instructors, ask around, look at their reviews, see if you can go and observe lessons, see how that instructor interacts with the children, see how they interact with the families, and if they're very thorough, comprehensive with explaining what they're doing, why they're doing it. I like for somebody to get an instructor who's been teaching, 10 to 20 years, because they have a lot of experience under their belt. And I always know, people come in, they're like, well, how am I supposed to get experience under my belt? But just when you've been doing it for some time, you have seen everything and you're able to work through everything with your students. But I do encourage families to always, come observe lessons if they can, and ask me all the questions. And I like for them to talk to my families as well.
Great. Do you have any water safety tips that you'd like to share with parents that are just like must-haves for the year?
There's a thing going around now that you high five, like the child needs to high five an adult before going into the water, so that they always know I need to have adult supervision. We give out water watcher cards, because when drownings happen, it's always, well, I thought you were watching him. Well, I thought you were watching him.
Yes.
So now we give out water watcher cards, and we do have them for purchase for anybody else. And while you're wearing this card for 15 minutes, you are in charge of watching a child. And there's no chatting with you poolside. There's no on the phone. There's no book. You have your eyes on a child the entire 15 minutes. And also, just always keep your eyes on your child when you're around water. Try to abstain from, poolside conversations, and even when you have your child in a flotation device, because those create false senses of security for not only a child but also for parents. There's so many times I've been teaching in community pools where there were children in puddle jumpers, and moms went to the bathroom or went to the snack bar, and then had children that were not in the puddle jumper and went straight back in the pool because they don't know. So always watch your child, and please don't put the onus on an older child to watch a younger one around water. You need to be responsible. And I just like those, make sure that your child knows not to go around water unless there's an adult, and we have high-fived before you go do that.
Perfect. That's a grand one. I really like that one a lot, because I would say, in my ER career, it was a lack of attention in a moment. It does just take
it is a moment
for it to happen. And staring at our cell phones is one of the big ones right now. So
I have a lot of parents who have said that they wouldn't do lessons because they say, I always watch my child, and you don't.
Yeah.
There's not one parent who always watches their child. And so please get your children skilled, put them in some form of swimming lessons than no swimming lessons.
That's great. So how can our listeners who are local find you and get in touch with you to get some swim lessons for their children?
So I have a really good social media presence with Little Loggerheads, and you can go to my website, littleloggerheadswimschool.com. I have a fantastic administrative assistant. She'll get right to you. She'll get you on our schedule. And I always say swim lessons are not limited to summertime. Aquatic accidents can happen all year. And so we swim all year. And at the end of the year, we end up swimming in clothes because aquatic accidents,
that's a great idea,
most of the time happen in clothes when a child is fully clothed, has shoes on, sometimes with a diaper on. That diaper can fill with water. So we always end our season swimming in clothes because I want their last recollection of being around water to be in clothes. So just because maybe you don't get in swim lessons this summer, don't let that detract you. Go ahead and get your child swimming, and because the sooner the safer. This pool is specifically designed for a teaching pool, and it is always heated to 88 degrees. 88 degrees is optimal for swim lessons, particularly for our babies, because our babies are in here for anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks. Again, still 10-minute lesson, and they learn their roll back to float. And it's all one-on-one. So I have parents come up to the platform, and I like for them to sit here so that they can cheer for their children. And they hand me their child, and we swim all around, and then I hand them back out. So I just like for us to just have that moment where, it's all one-on-one. I'm 100% focused on your child during that time. I was really lucky to get this pool. I actually had investors help me get this pool, so I was able to provide this to my families, because survival instructors struggle for pool space in Columbia. Well, I shouldn't even say Columbia, all over. Everybody struggles for pool space. So, and then community pools are very cold. I have families now telling me like they want to, they're getting in their backyard pools, and their water right now is 70 degrees. So, kids get in, but they're like, it's not Miss Shannon's pool.
And that changes their muscle.
It changes so much, yes.
As well.
Yeah.
It's a shock to the muscle tissue, and they kind of have a different neurological response.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I had one of my students, it was during the off season, was riding his bike, actually rode his bike into their family pool. I think it might've been November or February. I don't recall, but it was cold. And so he accidentally rode his bike into the pool, and he came up and floated. Wow. And, but just the shock alone of that cold water, it was just like, oh. So yeah.
Well, this is amazing, Shannon. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
Thanks for coming out here.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Health Begins Inside. We hope our conversation with Shannon O'Lear, a certified infant aquatic survival instructor and founder of Little Loggerheads Swim School, provided valuable insights into the importance of water safety for your children. Shannon's dedication to teaching infants and toddlers life-saving skills underscores the critical role of early swim education in preventing drowning incidents. Looking ahead, we're excited to announce that next month's episode will delve into the fascinating world of brain health. We'll explore how our lifestyles, diets, and daily habits influence our cognitive well-being and mental resilience. It's a conversation you won't want to miss, especially as we continue to uncover how true health begins from within. If you found today's discussion enlightening, please subscribe, leave a review, and share Health Begins Inside with your friends and family. Your support helps us bring more insightful conversations to the forefront. Until next time, stay informed, stay safe, and remember, health truly begins inside.